Now, is it possible to build muscle and lose fat at the same exact time? Well, let's talk about each point and how they relate to each other. Let's start with exercise. Exercise is responsible for about 15% of fat loss. And so your diet would have contributed to about 85%. So there is some benefits of exercise for fat loss. The key with building and maintaining muscle growth is this right here, intensity of exercise, as well as the volume of exercise. Because if you're doing keto and you're losing weight and you drop out your exercise, you're not going to continue to build muscle. In fact, it might shrink. A couple other points to consider. Recovery of the exercise. If you overtrain and don't recover, let's say you're working out every single day, and also adding on to that, you're not sleeping because you're stressed out, then the benefit of this is not going to be there. So you really need all these factors in place. The cool thing about exercise is it can stimulate growth hormone up to 700%. That's huge. And growth hormone helps you build muscle. Now let's switch to the carbs. The lower the carb, the more the weight loss, right? But carbs stimulate insulin, which is an anabolic hormone. It makes things grow. So now we have a problem. If we go with too many carbs, over 50 grams, it's going to stop the weight loss. But what if we did this? What if we consumed a little more protein? What if we kept our carbs lower, definitely below 50 grams, and we increased our protein a little bit more than 8 ounces per meal? What that's going to do, it's going to increase insulin and glucagon. Now, I will say that too much protein can potentially slow down your weight loss, so it's a bit of a balancing act between having the right amount of protein and the right amount of carbs. So maybe you're going to play around between 30 to 50 grams of carbs and keep your protein between 8 ounces, and then maybe try to increase it a little bit to actually provide a little bit more insulin to the muscles, but at the same time increasing glucagon, which actually helps you burn more fat. And so this point right here, the carb amount and protein amount is an individual thing. You have to play around with this to get the sweet spot. But I just want you to understand the relationship between these two. Fat provides energy for doing more exercise. If you go low fat and you're doing fasting, you could potentially make your body a bit too tired and not have the energy to do the exercise. So we need a certain amount of fat. We don't want to go below 75 grams. And that will force your body to burn more of its own fat and not turn the dietary fat as much into ketones. But having sufficient amounts of dietary fat in your diet will definitely help the next factor right here, which is fasting. Fasting is the most powerful thing to lose weight because it dramatically brings your insulin way down. And if you're doing consistent fasting, you can handle a little more protein because you're going to give your body a chance and the time to digest a larger amount of protein. Now, as far as fasting and your muscles go, when you fast, you could potentially stimulate growth hormone up to 2,000%. Now let's compare this to exercise, which is 700%. You get a major spike in growth hormone when you do fasting. And growth hormone is all about building muscle. And when you fast, there's also a protein sparing effect that occurs. And that means simply that your body is not going to be using your own muscle protein as fuel. It protects the muscles. Of course, there's going to be a point where you burn up all your fat, and then the body is going to starve and use its muscles. But it's not going to happen when you do routine fasting or even periodic prolonged fasting. One point about fasting, it's very important to consume enough sea salt, about 1 to 1.5 teaspoons a day, with potassium and magnesium to get your electrolytes. If you don't do this, your energy is going to go down. It's called keto fatigue, and you will not be able to exercise because your muscles are not going to have the electrolytes. They're going to get tired. In all of your cells, you have what's called a sodium-potassium pump that generates the electrical energy to allow the muscles and nerve to work. So as you can see now, the importance of how these different factors relate to each other to build muscle while you lose the fat. Hey, before you go real quick, I have a course entitled How to Bulletproof Your Immune System. It's a free course. I want you to take it. And here's why. Here's you. Here is your environment. Everyone is focused on this over here, avoiding your environment. But what about here? What about strengthening your immune system? That's what's missing. This course will show you how to bulletproof yourself, and so you can tolerate and resist your environment much better by strengthening your own immune system.
السلام عليكم. لا تنسوا الاعجاب بالفيديو والاشتراك في القناة تشجيعا لنا لنستمر بنشر المزيد إن شاء الله.